Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 54 of the All Dolphins podcast. And this one, of course, is going to be done in honor of Wahoo McDaniel.
Zach Thomas, our Hall of Famer.
God, let me get my joke in, man. Wahoo McDaniel, original Dolphin linebacker, also punted, became a famous wrestler. And this is
Really?
yes.
Wait a minute, wait.
Became a famous pro wrestler, Wahoo McDaniel. Yes, look it up.
What was his wrestling name?
Wahoo McDaniel.
Okay.
Yes. But Omar,
so he used his real name as his wrestling name.
I don't know if Wahoo McDaniel was his real name, but I guess so. But Omar killed my joke. So my joke was going to be, of course, Wahoo McDaniel when everybody knows. Thanks a lot, Omar. When, of course, everybody knows it's 54 has to be done for Zach Thomas. Also, I should point out that when I throw out a player who wore the uniform number corresponding to the episode number, it's not necessarily the best player. I've done that series on alldolphins.com, ranking the best player to wear each number. Right now, I'm basically going off the top of my head, who's the first player who comes to mind for that number. At 54, yes, it would have been Zach. So thanks a lot, Omar. Okay.
I've ruined many of things in my life. Jokes, just added to the list.
Well, you're becoming more well-rounded, adding to your resume. I'm glad I could help.
So now you got two former wrestlers. AJ Francis is a wrestler now. So
there you go.
That's interesting.
Okay. Before we tackle our main topic today, which is going to be position battles heading into the preseason finale against the Jacksonville Jaguars, we'll update the news. And there was a roster move on Friday morning. The Dolphins signed rookie defensive tackle Jamal Woods. Following a workout, he's a rookie free agent from Illinois who signed with the Colts, was waived August 1st. So now the roster is back at 90. And as you and I were discussing before we started the show, Omar, this move was made because
basically Zach Sealer and Deshaun Hand are not playing against the Jaguars. They need some defensive tackle depth just so that you don't kill Raekwon Davis or get him hurt. I'm not sure that any of those defensive tackles, including Brandon Peely, make the 53, but Brandon Peely will be a strong consideration. I think if he plays well against Jacksonville, he might earn his spot on the 53. We'll see.
Right, especially if the issue that Deshaun Hand is dealing with right now, which certainly appears to be a right knee situation, could affect his availability for early in the start of the regular season. He didn't practice. He was pulled from practice on, Wednesday, and then didn't practice Thursday. And this is a guy, the book on him is he's got ability, but he's kind of always hurt. And lo and behold, here we are again. So it could be that at some point the Dolphins are going to decide, yeah, we like the guy's potential, but you know what? Let's put him on the practice squad and we'll elevate him when we need him if he stays healthy, but we're not going to keep a roster spot for him.
That's a good idea. Actually, I never even thought about that. I'm here thinking that I've heard from my sources that Vic Fangio likes Deshaun Hand, which would explain why he moved from third team to first team during the joint practice week. And I don't care. I'm sharing it. I don't care. We don't watch practice anymore. But, you know, you practice squad. He's more of a practice squad fit than he is a spot on the 53. And if you're going to make me make tough decisions at running back and wide receiver and tight end, even though I really don't think they're tough decisions at tight end, he can be explored on the practice squad.
Yeah, that way you're not relying on him, being healthy on a weekly basis. It's just if we need somebody, and he's on the practice squad. And this
right now he'd have to be cut with an injury settlement.
Very possibly, yeah.
Unless he's put on the practice squad.
Well, if he's injured right now and you cut him, you can't he'd have to be waived injured. Again, depending on the nature of the injury and the severity of the injury, and we do not speculate here at alldolphins.com. All we can tell you is he did have a sleeve around his left knee when we saw him get pulled out of practice on Wednesday and then again on Thursday. So take that for what it's worth. And as far as Jamal Woods is concerned, no offense to the young fella, hope he lights it up in the game against Jacksonville, but unless he lights it up Aaron Donald style, his chances of making the 53-man roster for the Dolphins are microscopic, is the word I would use. We agree with that, Omar?
I'm responding to my wife right now.
Oh,
So
I thought you,
I
and here,
apologize.
I thought you were getting a text from a source with breaking.
I do have some of those though. I do have some of those.
By all means,
Um,
share, or do you need to finish your text?
yeah, my wife kind of comes first. She needs certain, but I can't tell her business.
No, you
So,
can't tell her business.
um,
Okay,
listen,
I can keep babbling until you're done with your text if you need to.
okay. Let me
Okay.
get to the information, the juicy information. And so there are at least 4 teams, and I say at least because we've heard 6. It could be less and more. There have been trades that have been denied. Obviously, Miami's one of those trades that have been denied. This is a process, counter back and forth. But there is competition. The Eagles are involved, which is the scary part. Now, what Miami has on their side is the fact that you know how Steve Ross operates, you know how he does business, so do the agents. So he wants a seat at the table. He has a seat at the table. And he will have ultimate opportunity because keep in mind, there are 2 factors that need to be involved in this conversation here. One is the Colts have to, the agent has to give the green light to the team. Okay, we can work out a framework of deals with this team, and this team. Make your best offer, that, and then we will determine which offer we accept, if we accept any offers. I'm not necessarily certain that the Indianapolis Colts have any leverage on the if we accept any offers, because ultimately, Jonathan Taylor can say, I've got a back issue. I've got to sit out the entire season. Thank you for my $4 million, but I'm not playing for you. And that seems to be the situation that they're facing right now. And so to get something for him, as opposed to him sitting out the year, cashing his check for $4 million, and then going somewhere as an unrestricted free agent and signing for all of these teams that are now showing you interest, you might as well get something for him now, as opposed to waiting for the compensatory pick in 2025. So that's what the Colts appear to be doing. I'm pretty sure he's going to be moved. What's interesting is I used to think that the Tuesday deadline was BS. However, the Tuesday deadline has some validity to it because Jonathan Taylor's on the PUP. If he's at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, he either stays on the PUP or he's activated. And if he's activated, or he's waived injured before that, and then he's done for the entire year. If he stays on the PUP, I'm not sure he can be moved or played. I've got it. I've contacted my sources, and there's some murkiness about that, which is why the Tuesday deadline is a legit deadline, because he either has to be on somebody's roster or he has to be on somebody's PUP. So we might be looking at this has to get done by Monday so that he can pass physicals and be placed, and trades can be approved by Tuesday at 4 p.m. It's complicated. So I withdraw my previous statements, ladies and gentlemen, about the Tuesday deadline being BS, because there is some complications with the fact that he is on the PUP, and the Colts cannot just activate him and put him on the roster and hold him there until they're ready to trade, because that makes it extremely complicated.
Okay, but I'm gonna shoot down the idea of waiving him injured, because the second he can pass a physical, then then they had to let him go.
Not waiving him injured, putting him on injured reserve for the year.
Oh, got it. Okay.
I'm sorry if I said waive him injured. Yes, because somebody's going to claim him, obviously.
Well, no, correct. That was my point there. And the other thing with PUP, just as just technical stuff, but it's not the thing is, right now it's active PUP. Active PUP disappears once the regular season arrives, and it's reserve PUP, because right now guys who are on PUP, and here I have my phone. My phone's acting up here. So here, this is the kind of operation we run here. The players who are on active PUP right now count against the 90-man roster. They do not anymore once the regular season starts, because now they go on a reserve PUP, which puts them out of action for the first 4 games. So that's that situation there. No, but that's certainly interesting. The flip side to that is, I know you mentioned that you expect him to get traded. it wouldn't be the first time if a player was granted permission through his agent to request a trade or seek a trade that they didn't pan out and he wound up working something out with his previous team. The latest example, I guess, Austin Eckler of the Chargers, Lamar Jackson this offseason with the Ravens when they told him, go right ahead, knock yourself out.
Hey, Xavier Howard. No, I don't think he was given permission to get a trade. He just demanded it. Yes,
he did. Which brings me back to another point before we get to our main topic here, moving on from Jonathan Taylor, but do we make room for the possibility? Is it possible that at some point, perhaps Christian Wilkins' agent's going to request a trade?
If it hasn't been done already, and I'm not saying that I know that it hasn't. I have said, what have I been saying for months now? That a deal was not getting done. Correct? Yes, no?
You have. And I have said the Dolphins I think they want to see him prove himself in the pass rush game, not just sacks, but affecting the passing game more to give him the kind of money that he wants or get closer to the kind of money that he wants.
And I'm very, very careful when I talk about Christian Wilkins because Christian already thinks that I'm kind of
you hate him. He thinks that you hate him.
Listen.
I'm joking. No, we don't do.
No. I don't know if you're joking. I'm being very cautious with my words, which I don't do very often. And that's out of respect for all the entities involved.
Okay.
I might feel like I'm worth a certain price. And while I haven't proven it, I have ultimate confidence in myself that I will be worth that price. And if you offer me lower than that price, but what you feel is fair based on the work that I've produced so far, and it's a respectable number. If everybody heard it, they'd say, wow, that's a respectable number. But you feel disrespected by that offer. And you feel like it's below what my peers are getting, below what I deserve. Now we're at an impasse. I've told you folks on alldolphins.com and All Dolphins, the podcast, for months, the Dolphins have Christian Wilkins locked up at $16 million a year for the next 2 years. Have I not said that?
With the franchise tag in play next year. That's where we get the 16 million.
If I have somebody at 16, and let's just say I'm generous enough and I say, I'm going to get you to 17, but you're asking for 20. We are at an impasse, are we not?
No, correct.
And I'm not sure this impasse is going to pass. And
this is going to pass. I like that.
And I am perfectly fine and comfortable with Christian Wilkins playing on his fifth-year option. And if we're going to be completely honest and transparent, so are the Miami Dolphins. Now, would they like to do a long-term deal? Absolutely. It would lower his cap number for this year, probably saving you about $4 million in cap space, give you a little bit of freedom and flexibility to maybe sign an Alec Ingold to an extension. You know how much I love Ingold.
You do.
But the reality of this situation is, if we can't agree to a number and you're sitting up here asking me for something that I feel far exceeds what I think you're worth, but you're telling me I'm worth that because that's what the market says we're worth. But I'm saying you're not worth that because we haven't had the production, even though I love you and you're a great guy and you're a good leader. We're at an impasse. And I don't think that changes from now till September 10th.
No, and here's the thing that fans have to understand, and because I know it's real popular to say Christian Wilkins has been great. He's a great team leader. He brings intangibles up the wazoo. He produces, pay him his money. That's all great. But again, you can't do that for everybody. And you can pay, yes, you can pay, but you can pay up to a certain point. You can't just give the guy exactly what he wants. And the thing with Christian Wilkins is, as good as he is against the run, and he's great against the run, if we're being honest, I don't think he's what you would call an impact interior defensive lineman as a pass rusher. And it's just, again, for me, it's not just a sack numbers, is getting in the quarterback's face to affect the passing game.
And he will tell you that's because of the scheme. That's because of what's asked. That's because of the style of an approach. Change the style and approach, and you'll see much more production. And I don't know who's right and who's wrong.
Well, and this is where the Dolphins might say, okay, right now you have 10 points.
Show me.
Guaranteed. Correct. Show me. And then we'll revisit it.
And then when we revisit it, I just tag you. Like it's
or if you have removed all doubt as to your ceiling as a defense, interior defensive lineman, then we'll talk about the big money.
But then if I'm in Christian's situation, yeah, now I'm asking for 25, not 20.
Well, if he gets to Chris Jones level, then we can talk 25. That's fine. I don't think he's going to get to that kind of level because Chris Jones is special as a pass rusher, but that's a Casey problem. And right now, quick note on Chris Jones before we go to our main topic. He's talking about holding out till week 8 or something. Or quick reminder, Dolphins play the Chiefs in week 9. So personally, from this standpoint, hey, make it week 8, make it week 10, go for it, Chris, no problem, because if he's early into his return, chances are he's not going to be as effective as if he's there from the start of the regular season.
I worry about that. I'm a one season at a time kind of guy. One game
Are
at a
you
time.
one of those? Oh my God.
I am absolutely one game at a time kind of guy.
That's great for players and all that, but we're in the media.
I'm like Mike McDaniel. I worry about
Jesus.
Chris Jones. You got to worry about
Come on,
the
Mack and
Chargers pass rushers.
Joey Bosa.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, if I bring up Jerry Jeudy having a hamstring injury that's supposed to keep him out several weeks, and Denver's the opponent for the home opener on September 24th, you're going to tell me, that's too far down the line?
I don't even know who they're playing in week 2. Not a clue.
Sunday night game at New England. Okay, so we
one week at a time.
Okay, well then this week, a great segue here. Thank you, Omar. This week, because we're taking 1 week at a time, is the preseason finale against the Jacksonville Jaguars. We love preseason finales because it means the regular season is right around the corner.
Who is rematch against Trevor Lawrence, who stole his second national championship?
Okay, it's one way.
It happened.
No, or a rematch of the game in London, which was part of that dreadful losing streak in 2021, when the Jaguars had a new kicker who hadn't made a kick longer than 35 yards his entire career, and all of a sudden made like 50 and 54 yards in the last 3 minutes to steal the game for the Jaguars. But that's the way it was going at that time for the Dolphins.
I remember there was some, and you can educate me, there was some bad calls and decisions by Flores that put them in that situation to allow Jacksonville or Miami didn't play prevent defense, thinking that they were going to punt, and the Jaguars went for it on 4th down, putting themselves in field goal territory. There was some little murkiness to that game.
Well, there was like 6 seconds left or whatever, and the Dolphins gave up like a 10-yard completion where the player gave himself up and allowed Jacksonville basically to be able to set up for a game-winning field goal like in a ridiculously short amount of time. Whether that was like a bad call defensively, I honestly don't remember. I'm not trying to protect Flores, whose defensive mind I have nothing.
Why would you protect Flores?
Because I have defended him when a bunch of people on social media have done nothing but take shots at him. The guy's a brilliant defensive mind.
I'm not a Flores guy. I am not a Flores guy. I'm not going to defend him, but he was a good coach, kind of bad human being in terms of personal skills, lacked them. But yeah, he was a good coach. He's going to be I argue he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL, one of the best I've seen. So, and you know what's funny? Have you heard a word about that lawsuit?
Nope. There was one other than when they've gone through motions where the NFL wants to keep it with the arbitrator.
Yeah.
But no, outside of that, no, it's been kind of quiet, and it's been going on a year and a half now.
Yeah. Anyway, I support him on the lawsuit because it's all true. It's all true.
That's a different topic for another day. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We said we were going to discuss some of these tough decisions on this roster heading into the final game against Jacksonville. Let's start with the quarterback battle. Unfortunately, that's not going to be much of a battle because Mike White is not playing. While he might be cleared to play, Mr. Precautious, which is what I call Mike McDaniels, because he does not play guys who are questionable for injuries or he's not playing Mike White. So we're gonna get the Skylar show. Here's my question to you as a Mike White supporter, because you fall into one camp or the other camp, and we interestingly fall into different camps here.
So does it have to be that way though? Go ahead.
The whole world is that way. If Skylar balls out again, and let's say he replicates the Houston performance, do you reconsider your stance of saying unequivocally Mike White is the number 2 no matter what he does?
Yeah,
Because of the money.
Absolutely. It muddles the picture even more. And by the way, here, I'm going to take exception to one thing you said. There's being cautious, and then there's not playing your quarterback who's a week removed from having a concussion. So in this particular case, yeah, absolutely. He has no business playing in this game. Having said all that, now I'm curious to see what the rotation is going to be, because Mike McDaniel told us before practice Thursday, my plan right now is 2 on the starters, more than a quarter, less than a half.
And then James Blackman.
And James Blackman, unless I change my mind after talking to the coaches after practice on Thursday. The fact that Tua had a very, very good practice Thursday, does that make Mike McDaniel think, okay, we're all good there, we don't need to do it, let's make it, as you said, the Skylar and Blackman show? Or, because if he still sticks to Tua and the starters for a quarter and a half, say, and then James Blackman, you give him the second half, that doesn't leave a whole lot.
No, not second half. James Blackman can't play more than 20 snaps, because I don't think he knows 20 plays. So let's not. Am I lying? Where did I tell a lie?
I don't know.
Okay, you're like all offended. Did I lie?
Well, but the second half, first of all, let's say the offense gets 65 plays, that's 2/3 of there, and you can repeat plays. So,
okay, the evaluation for the other guys on the team, the Chris Brookses, the Dawood Davises, the Chris Colemans, those are important. You're not going to get a good evaluation with James Blackman. Tell me I'm lying.
Completely agree. And here's the thing, though, where I would suggest almost if McDaniel reverse course, which is what we cautioned on the show yesterday, episode 53, Bob Matheson, is that if he decided to change his mind after talking to his coaches, I would see a lot of merit in that, because then you get Skylar against Jacksonville starters. Doug Peterson's already said he's using his starters. If Skylar lights it up against Jacksonville's 2s and 3s, that to me doesn't carry as much weight as if he gets to start and he has 2 good drives or 3 good drives against Jacksonville starters.
No, Tua's got to play. Not that I want him to play, but Tua's got to play. You cannot expose Skylar to that much of a game. And I like Skylar. I think the whole Skylar coming in cold and having to figure it. By now, you should know 50 plays that work for Skylar. Am I correct?
Yeah, but that's not my line of thinking here. And do we really need to see Tua in there?
Yes, because we need to see him with everybody but Tyreek and Waddle. And we need to see him make the tight ends come alive. And we need to see Alec Ingold get a little greased up. No, actually, I don't want Alec.
So you can fall in love a little more with him.
No. Let's not play Alec Ingold, because when the season begins and you unleash that Alec Ingold package on the world, I'm gonna be like, I told you so. I told you so. You know I like Alec Ingold. Like, it's
no, but you're talking like the guy's gonna have 50 catches or something. I'd say
he's gonna play at least 20 snaps on offense a game.
Oh, I don't dispute that, but it's not like he's gonna again. He's not gonna.
But they're nice plays.
Sure.
They're plays that allow you to conceptually challenge the defensive coordinator. Like, what is your intention with Alec Ingold here? What I don't know what he's doing on a given play. Can you name me another player that does that?
Well, I'm sure there are other players around the league. I mean,
he's like a dinosaur. He's a rare breed of player. He's like,
well, there are other fullbacks like him, like Kyle Juszczyk in San Francisco, Patrick Ricard in Baltimore, although he's not used in the passing game as much. Well, but that's because very few teams use a fullback anymore.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's like having to write with your left hand. I know you're a lefty. It just feels odd for a defensive coordinator to have to like deal with that because they're not comfortable with it. And I think he's a matchup problem.
At least you didn't go with the Josh Sitton analogy of having to wipe your butt with the wrong hand. If you remember that great quote from training camp 2018, I want to say it was. Okay, at running back, I'm starting to think that my dude Chris Brooks, this is from practice observations and game action observations and everything, that whatever little shot he had, I think it's, and this is regardless of what happens with Jonathan Taylor,
he's a nice player.
He's a nice player.
You fell in love with him. I told you he was practice squad from the beginning. And like intriguing, won him around, but I'm not worried about him. What I am worried about is Ahmed, Miles, Jeff Wilson, who I haven't seen him around lately. You tell me.
He's not practicing. I mean, he didn't practice Thursday. I'm guessing
he hasn't practiced most of training camp. You realize that, right?
He's been in and out. That's also kind of it's interesting too, because I know there are some of the fans who have concerns about Jonathan Taylor was because he was injured last year. As you like to say, let's not pretend that there are not injury concerns or injury history issues with the core of running backs as it stands right now. Starting with Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson's the guy who's been banged up. Devon Achane currently is sidelined with a shoulder injury, and Salvon Ahmed and Myles Gaskin, while they're nice complementary backs, they're not necessarily feature backs. So there's that. I think I might, no offense, but I might take the same approach with Ahmed and Gaskin as you do with Chris Brooks, as in I'm not worried about either one of them. I think Ahmed's ahead of Gaskin in terms of roster.
Especially if Achane is not healthy. Ahmed opens up a certain set of plays that maybe Raheem can do, but I definitely think Ahmed is ahead of Miles right now. Miles is going to get a lot of run in Jacksonville, and he's really having an audition for his NFL career. And I think some team will pick him up or sign him to the practice squad. He definitely belongs in the NFL. The question is, can he be on this Dolphins roster? And to me, that comes down to the math. How many guys am I specifically keeping for special teams? Okay, do I have to keep Brandon Peely? Do I feel like if I waive him, somebody's going to claim him? Cornerback situation. What's the Keon Crossan situation? So those are how many offensive linemen am I taking? Miles to me is in that 50 to 53 spot where those guys, they're just here temporarily, whether they're going to be cut and put on the practice squad or waived one day because I need a roster spot. So, Miles probably needs a little bit better situation, a better security. So it probably benefited him if somebody claimed him, but then he'd have to start all over. Keep in mind, remember, and this is important, the one thing that I will say that I've learned about Mike McDaniel and this offense for the last 2 years is you don't just come here and know it and play. It is an offense that's extremely complicated to learn. And I've heard that from the rooter to the tutor, from everybody.
And you can learn it just by playing Madden like Tyreek does. But he doesn't have to work. I'm sorry.
Hey, Madden, he was freelancing out there, man. He was just listen. I believe him. I know you don't, but I believe.
By the way, and I bring that up because Tyreek fessed up to the Yahoo reporter, NFL writer Jory Epstein, that a lot of what he says is just for fun and for trolling purposes. He likes to get people riled up. So when Tyreek says something like, "I didn't know half the playbook, I was just kind of freelancing out there," or "I don't study defensive backs because I look what they do on Madden," take it with a grain of salt. And now I'm questioning. Even though he did sound serious and he said it on a podcast of former KC teammates, I'm almost questioning his whole stance of I'm retiring when my contract runs out.
I never believed that anyway. If I put $30 million in front of you, you're not retiring. But then again, he did say he's been traveling lately and he's reconsidering his, stance.
All right. And if his brand soul runner like really takes off and all that, Maybe he can make a really, really, really good living.
I think, and I've dealt with this with a lot of players. Once they get to the double-digit years of their career, they're not interested in doing training camp and OTAs and all this foolishness.
Right.
And the smart teams basically say, you don't have to worry about that. I can name you a player I won't, but literally, he told me he only showed up for the OTA sessions that the media was attending. Like, that's the only time he did anything in the offseason with the team. And he was a very good player. Yeah. So you understand what I'm saying? So I think Tyreek is in the realm of, one, I think you're going to have to revisit Tyreek's contract next year. For those Dolphin fans, you do not have, the capocalypse is coming, and you do not have many avenues and opportunities to fix your situation. Tyreek is one, but then you'd have to write him another big fat check, which Tyreek is comfortable getting big fat checks. So
no problem.
He's all right with it. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving, because I want to get into the tough decisions that you're going to have to make at wide receiver. The question is, do you keep 5 or 6? And if you keep 6, who is the man off? River Craycraft, Robbie Chosen. And you've even mentioned this to me previously, and I poo-pooed it initially. Then I rethought about it. Then I poo-pooed it again. Cutting Mr. Cedric Wilson.
Okay, and one more thing also. When we get to the roster cuts of August 29th on Tuesday, guys who are vested, it's like 4 years or more, do not have to go through waivers. It's contract terminated. You will see that's going to be the terminology. So if the Dolphins decide to have a talk with Robbie Chosen and say, listen, Robbie, we're going to terminate your contract right now to create a roster spot, for example, for Jalen Ramsey, who needs to be on the initial 53 before we put him on IR, but then we're going to re-sign you. It's not like another team can come in and claim him off waivers, and Chosen has no choice other than retire on that team. Chosen can say, no, I'm going to stick with the Dolphins here. So that's one scenario I could see happening.
Yes, I'm actually in that camp. I believe Chosen will be cut on Tuesday and will rejoin the team one way or another. That is just my educated guess.
It makes perfect sense, especially again with the background that this is the team for which he wanted to play.
Mm-hmm.
So having said all that, and again, if the Dolphins do it nicely and have a discussion with him, yeah, absolutely, I can see that scenario. I have a hard time seeing the Dolphins cutting Cedric Wilson and eating.
You were the one that talked me into it the last time.
So how wishy-washy I am.
It's okay. Here's the thought process of this. And I'm not saying that I'm firmly on it, because you know how I feel. I don't feel like Steve Ross should waste $5 million because you made a bad decision.
No, and that's where I said right now. I'm just saying it's not impossible. I still doubt.
But how long are we going to sit on a bad decision, though? Obviously, but here's the thing: you cut him, you're saving yourself. You're paying him $5 million or maybe $4 million because he signed somewhere else for the minimum. So it's a $4 million hit. You keep him, you're paying him $7 million. Do you want to save $3 million and just eat the money? Or do you want to keep River Craycraft? Because that, to me, is where the decision is. Do I spend $4 million to keep River Craycraft and save myself $3 million? Or do I just swallow my pride and keep Cedric Wilson for one more year?
Yeah, no, that's a tough call.
I mean, nobody's taking him. So
unless the Dolphins eat some of his salary.
I don't even know if I want to eat some of his salary. Like if maybe I'll eat $3 million of his salary. But
okay,
even at $4 million, I'm not sure a team wants Cedric Wilson for $4 million.
That's a good question. That's a good point.
So, like, he's a $2 million player. Yeah, and you made that face like, yeah, he's a veteran minimum player.
Maybe a little bit above that.
And I'm not being disrespectful, but what have you seen from Cedric Wilson for 2 years?
50-yard punt return against the Bills in the playoffs.
I mean, okay.
Not a ton. I mean, and he had a decent year in Dallas his last year there when all their wide receivers got hurt, and he was called upon and he responded, and that's what the Dolphins bought. No, I still think he makes the team. But if he doesn't, I certainly would not be surprised. I will tell you this. I know we want to touch on this guy. Where do you stand on Tanner Conner? Because I saw him at practice, and I'll be honest with you. I'm not floored with him. I'm not floored with Elijah Higgins. I think Julian Hill is the best of the quote unquote receiving tight ends among those young guys. I think Tyler Croft's a complete different animal, and he makes a team because of his blocking to go along with Durham Smythe. That's my thought process on tight ends.
I say whatever you say is fine because I don't care about any of it.
Oh man,
that unit is mediocre. If it's a restaurant, it would get 1 star.
Okay. It's not sexy. We can agree.
Oh, it's past not sexy. Let's address the offensive line real quickly because you got some tough decisions here.
Okay.
I think Robert Jones is going to be either injury settlement or on IR. I would put him on IR because that cast does not look like it's 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And then there's Lester Cotton. Lester Cotton is probably the player this is the most important game for him of everybody who's going to be participating in the preseason game against Jacksonville, because 2 weeks ago I could have told you he was vying for the starting spot and he gets injured and he becomes forgotten about. So how do you go from being a potential starter to somebody who's not going to make your 53? Now, you can go out there and you can remind them who you are by going out there and busting some heads. But that's where I stand on that one.
Well, and it may come down to how many offensive linemen do the Dolphins keep. Last year they kept 8. I think the year before it was also 8. It's not crazy to think they might keep 9. And then you go with assuming the starting line is going to be Armstead, Wynn, Williams, Hunt, and Jackson. Liam's making the team. Kendall Lamb's making the team, and Dan Feeney's making the team. That's your 8 right there.
Cedric O?
Not seeing it. Sorry, not seeing it.
Practice squad?
If he doesn't sign with somebody else, this is another guy, one of those guys who's going to be contract term can sign with anybody else. But I haven't seen anything in training camp or in the games that tells me he needs to be kept. I'll be very honest with you. So the question is going to be, 8, do they keep 8 or 9? If they keep 9, Lester Cotton's your guy, and it's up to him, as you mentioned, to ball out tomorrow against Jacksonville.
Well, folks, we have run out of time on this. We will be back tomorrow where we'll break down some of the defensive players and answer your questions. So look forward to that. And subscribe, like, share, tell a friend, all that good stuff on YouTube. Where you get your audio podcast on the Fans First Sports Network. Omar, let's talk tomorrow.